Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 621 on Tuesday, the 4th of March, 2025. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew, and this week you'll hear how the industry seems to think cuts are the only answer. In new car news, you will learn to count to 5 thanks to one company. And in points of interest, you will feel old thanks to the list of the week.
Oh, it's terrible.
But first, we have a smidgen of follow-up, and it is an apology. Last week, during the discussion of the Kia PV5, I moved on to a matter that was tangentially related as it concerned the coverage of the government's announcement for the extension of the plug-in grant for electric vans. I was not kind to those that I had seen saying it was a new announcement because it wasn't. However, in how I moved to that and with my editing ham-fistedness after, I inadvertently gave the impression I was attacking the professional van outlet and their writers. That was not my intention at all, and I apologise for how that segment came out. It's now been removed, and I am very aware of the irony of me having a go at poor journalism, and I have made such a hash in how I've handled it. New news, Alan.
Yes, new news. Aston Martin. They have decided that after a fall in sales, they are going to cut about 170 jobs. Losses widened by about a fifth last year. They sold fewer cars in 2023 after supply chain issues, production delays, all sorts of things. And this is it coming around, essentially. What they're saying is that they aim to make sure that the company was appropriately resourced for its future plans. And, of course, called the cuts a difficult but necessary action, which is always pretty much the case with these sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of across the business, so it's hitting manufacturing, office, backroom jobs, and management. The numbers have been turning around a little bit. Obviously, they appointed Adrian Hallmark as the new chief executive in September. They launched a new Vanquish model in September as well, and that did help boost the sales later in the year, and it meant that volumes are up 10% in the second half compared to 2023. Overall, volumes were still down by 9%, and that meant that pre-tax losses were up by 21% to £289 million. At the same time, it was racking up a bit more debt. There's some changes to be made here. I think the lunchtime read will give a whole load more information about what new chairman Adrian Hallmark is thinking about, what they're planning on doing. So we're not going to go into too much of that right now. But before that goes into place, right at the minute, they are cutting some jobs.
Right, I'm going to take us to Stellantis because, unfortunately, for a large section of the new news, it's not good news. And Stellantis have seen their profits drop by 70% in 2024. Now, 2023 was a cracking year for them. Let's not forget that. However, they took a big hit in America where they were down significantly. And also Europe wasn't too far behind for them there either when it came to income and profitability.
It's a kicker, really, because revenues are down 17% year on year, but then the net profit is down 70% year on year. They're not making... Well, they're making less money, but they're making even less profit as a percentage.
Yeah, and what they're pinning their hopes on, and all the eggs are in the "we've got new cars coming out" basket. And from that, the people in charge at the moment of Stellantis, because they are still searching for a new CEO, let's not forget that, even though there's been massive changes to senior management already. But they are hoping that the new models reinvigorates interest from customers in what they're providing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and the first of those are starting to come out. Kind of mixed reviews, really.
Yeah,
I think for some of them. So, but obviously, with the first ones come out, you can then update and correct as you go along. Fingers crossed, really. I mean, there's a whole list of actions here in this AM Online article that will be linked in the show notes, but most of it is the kind of things that you'd expect. Does kind of make me chuckle the second to last one listed here, which is elevating engagement with governments and regulators on key industry issues. hopefully that moves on to basically fighting with them.
Well, I have already seen an article that said that they are no longer keeping in place their refusal to accept price rises from suppliers. Obviously, senior management that are there now have realised alienating virtually everybody involved in helping Stellantis be more profitable, better, and provide nicer vehicles for customers. It'd be best if they were on side.
Well, it hasn't been working. What they were doing at the time, which was basically warring with everyone, wasn't really working. Speaking of which, we'll be talking about the Italian government later on.
Yes. But anyway, still speaking of warring with everybody, why didn't you take us to Nissan?
Well, no, that's not fair. Nissan is mostly warring with itself.
And anyone who says, hello, can we be friends?
Well, yes, okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. However, what they're not really trying to do is war with the Unite Union. The Sunderland plant has cancelled its Line 1 late shift and instead will be focusing all its resources on Line 2, where the new Nissan Leaf will be built. A spokesperson for Nissan said that no jobs were going to be lost because of the changes, and the Unite Union said that it was working to mitigate any potential pay reductions for staff who might be affected by the change in shift patterns. This kind of thing happens quite a lot. I've been there when they've closed down one of the lines for a while to bring a new model on stream. And it's something which does happen. It's not the end of the earth, and not too much should be read into it, really. Nissan says that they are implementing immediate measures to turn around its performance and create a leaner, more resilient business capable of swiftly adapting to changes in the market. Yeah, I know. That's quite impressive. Go PR folk, because that was, you've just earned your salary for that one. I've worked with Nissan in the past, and so one of the things about it is everything comes down to the numbers. As we were discussing beforehand, this kind of stuff is not unusual, closing down lines and shifting people back and forth. But we did kind of reckon that maybe some of the Nissan's management were making sure that this was quite well known, that look at all the things we're doing to save money. We are still relevant. We are still on it.
Yep.
In Sunderland. And, obviously they're preparing to build the new Leaf and everything in Sunderland anyway. So this is a good way to sort of go, look how hard we're working to make sure that we're as efficient as possible, because everything in Nissan comes down to the bottom line of cost per vehicle. And it can be down to pennies between different places in the world. And that's the kind of thing that steers where stuff gets built and where investment goes.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'm going to take us to SKODA, and SKODA have announced that they will be cutting their workforce, unfortunately, for the 15% of 41,000 people who are going to lose their job, that SKODA is hopeful will go through, and I'm quoting on this Yahoo Finance article here because it is lovely wordage, natural fluctuation, according to CEO Klaus Zellmer. Okay. That's a lot of people taking retirement or redundancy.
It is.
But it shows how much the Volkswagen Group is struggling. This should be news to no one that the VW Group is struggling. And we're going to move on shortly to another article that will underline that, but actually will really hammer it home.
It was thought, amongst other things, that Skoda was going to take a version of the ID.1 electric city car, but supposedly they turned it down because it would only have been marginally profitable. Just trying to keep numbers too tiny. Otherwise, you just can't make those margins. Interesting one.
Yeah, because we've not got a link to an article here, but I did see that Volkswagen, not the group, but the Volkswagen brand, have said that they will not be building their niche models. They're only going to focus on their core models moving forward to save costs and to increase profitability.
Mm-hmm.
But interesting, in this article that is linked, that Skoda is targeting India and Vietnam to try and get up to 1 million global sales.
And they're about to build a factory in Vietnam as well.
We'll see how they get there, because those are very hard markets and very cost-conscious markets.
Very much so, yeah. Porsche, other end of the Volkswagen scale, and they seem to be, again, there's a theme this week: slowing sales, rising costs, get rid of people. Porsche are doing it from the other end very much. And they seem to be saying, well, actually, in response to this, first people that are going to go are the Deputy Chairman and Chief Financial Officer Lutz Meschke and the Sales Marketing Director Detlev von Platten. So they've been terminated, or at least their contracts have been. But they're saying that, there are other senior figures, it's quoted in this Autocar article, such as Chairman Oliver Bloom, also thought to be in the firing line. We were discussing this before. Porsche and Audi have the same problem in that their new products are being held up because of all of the Cariad amusement that they've been forced by VW Group to accept. Porsche can do something about it. They can jump up and down a bit and shout about it. Audi is still in the doghouse because of Dieselgate.
Yeah. But they've had to go to other suppliers for certain aspects of the vehicle, infotainment systems and more. And on top of that, because of the breadth of what Cariad is looking at, which includes the software for running vehicles, they've been held back on having the latest technology in their EVs. And the EVs have not been selling in the volumes they want in any market, but particularly China, because as we were discussing just last week, the local market options are much more attractive to the buyers for a variety of reasons, but basically, Western car makers and Japanese, to include those as well, they're not seen as the ones that people want.
Yeah, which they were for a long, long time. I think this shift has happened very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly at a time when people were kind of counting on it. Because, so we're going to keep on selling in China. And then all of a sudden the local ones are going to look, here's some really desirable stuff. And everyone's going, oh, that is really desirable. I'd love to find more.
I think we need to do a special edition on China and what's happened and why we are here, because so many people do not understand the reality. This is all down to the fact that they can plan, and they do plan for the long term. And they made a decision of how they were going to deal with this, and look at it now. And they're wiping the floor in their own market. They're wiping the floor with everybody else.
Absolutely. Last one of the grumpy manufacturers, Andrew. I think this one falls to you, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, it's not so much the manufacturers. It is the Italian regulators are a bit grumpy. And they are grumpy with EV makers, including BYD, Stellantis, Tesla, and the Volkswagen Group. Ooh, okay. I wonder what other options you have in Italy for an electric vehicle then. This has come from the Italian Competition Authority in conjunction with the Italian Financial Police, which started investigations last week into those four groups. They are alleging that there are misleading claims on driving range, battery degradation, warranties, as well as misleading information about their EVs, on top of unfair commercial practices in Italy.
So only one or two things then.
Yeah, it's a really interesting article that we've got linked from Car Scoops in the show notes. So do click and read this, because if any or all of this does get borne out to be seen as they are illegal or rule breaking or whatever level they're looking at this, then other markets in Europe will have to look at this as well.
I think so.
Because of some of the stuff they're asking. I mean, we've run through this and we don't agree with everything. Whilst I can get on board with things like they're talking about, it's not clear for people on what the conditions need for someone to be able to get the maximum driving range.
Well, the maximum advertised driving range.
Well, yes, the advertised driving range, or how to get the car to be to charge at the maximum that it can, and all these other things. Because a lot of it is said as, if environmental conditions will allow. Well, we say environmental conditions will allow, because there is a whole host of things that influence, from the temperature, the humidity, altitude, the power that you're able to charge at, all these sort of things. There is a lot of things for everyone to wrap their heads around. And it is still new, this technology, for us to understand as consumers. But they're saying, whilst they're giving generic WLTP information. That's not always fair because, as you were discussing earlier, Alan, certain portions of Italy do not fall within the normal criteria.
There's such a range. That's the kicker. I mean, are you in the Italian Alps or are you in Sicily? It's very different between the two of them. And you might get almost the range if you're in Sicily, but not the charging speed. But then you might be up in the Italian Alps and you might get practically none of the range because it's cold and it's hilly and all these things. But you've got much better infrastructure generally, so maybe your car charges faster. And so how do you know what you're going to get? Or even that there is a variation on what you could get between the two, and how bad is it going to be, or how good is it going to be, and all these kind of things. And I can see where they're coming from with this,
because we don't have that issue with diesel and petrol. We know what we're going to get. We know there will be a little drop off here or there, depending on a couple of factors. But it is nothing like what happens to EVs.
No, and people don't even, most people don't even notice, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But the one point that we do question, and we're not really on board with the Italian regulators on, they are talking about clear and complete information, quoting from the article, on battery capacity degradation over time under normal use. Now, we feel that one's a bit unfair because people don't know, because we are only so many years into what is actual normal use and what is actual degradation over that time. And we're finding from early expectations of how a battery will react, already we're finding they are lasting much longer and holding a much more of a charge and are in much better health than people were expecting.
There is another bit on top of that, though, and that's that the AGCM is claiming that they don't adequately disclose the terms and limitations of the battery warranties, which is a different thing.
Yeah.
I guess, but generally speaking, the batteries seem to be lasting longer than people said, because people are like, oh, do you need to change the battery every 3 years? No, you don't.
No.
Or even every 5, or even in 6, or even in some cases, any 10 years.
And you can get cells repaired now. You don't have to have the whole pack. All these other things that we are learning as we go along.
That is manufacturer to manufacturer, but yes, normally it's just getting the cells repaired. Lots of stuff in there. Very interesting. It's a case that could have repercussions depending on how it goes. A little bit of bus news to round off the first half of the show. Liverpool has ordered 58 electric double-decker buses, and they've ordered them from British bus manufacturer Alexander Dennis. They are Enviro 400 EVs, should you be interested and keeping that in your notebooks at home. All of them should be delivered by the end of the year. They come with a 472 kilowatt-hour battery pack. They carry 87 passengers, and you can also get a smaller 354 kilowatt-hour battery pack if you want, which can also transport 96 passengers. After all that, ADL isn't saying which version has been ordered for Liverpool. But yes, it's got market-leading 97% grid-to-wheel charging efficiency, supposedly, and also does very well in some other numbers, which I just don't understand.
Yes.
One thing I've noticed since I've come back is that here around Perth, there are quite a lot of electric buses. But I do sort of wonder if some of that is because, of course, Stagecoach is, and the whole Stagecoach group is from Perth originally, and whether or not it's showing stuff off. But I mean, I know in the past it didn't mean Perth got any better buses than anywhere else. But it's one of the things I've noticed coming back after just a couple of years. It's like, whoa, so many more EV buses around.
It's good to see.
It is. It's a great use for them too, in so many levels.
Yeah. Well, that is the end of the first part, Alan. We've made it through. We have survived so far. And yes, it's Guilt Minute, a quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel the Motoring Podcast is worth a small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts.
But if we don't have any spare cash, and we do completely understand that, then you can help us by following for free from a podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show in whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all that, and so many of you do, so thank you very much, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Thank you. New car news, and this is a little bit of catch-up on last week.
It's almost follow-up.
Yes. We're going to start, though, with actual new, and this is the Kia EV2 concept preview. This was all the information we're going to say in the new car news was down to the Spanish electric vehicle presentation they gave. That was a global presentation that they gave last week. And the EV2 is going to be... Well, it says here £25,000, but that's only when they've gone against the €30,000
from around.
Yeah, it's not going to be 25 grand. I would see it's around £30,000, similar to the Euros. And size-wise, it's somewhere between the Renault 5 and the Renault 4, and very similar to the Corsa Electric.
Lisa, am I the only person who doesn't know what size a Renault 5 and a Renault 4 are? Because everybody seems to be comparing things to them, and I just don't know.
I don't know either.
Is it because I've been almost foreign for a while, or I just... And I haven't seen it. I've been keeping an eye out.
No, it's. I think the people that are saying it are the lucky few who have been near a Renault 4 or a Renault 5.
Okay, well, that's what I suspected.
Yes. But the Corsa, we do know what a size a Corsa is.
We do know what size a Corsa is, yes.
Yeah.
I sometimes mistake them for Astras.
This really is just a concept preview because whilst it has wonderful wing mirrors, it has no door handles, and it is very much a render.
By wonderful door mirrors, he means normal-sized door mirrors, by the way. But yes, it is distinctly lacking in door handles.
But it is in line with the recent design trend from Kia, which was the Opposites United design philosophy, is what it is, which have those vertical lights on the towards the edge of the front wings and stuff. It looks great. I am sure it will sell bucket loads. We don't have much detail when it comes to the specifications, unfortunately, which seems to be a trend that is developing in the car world, where they do a preview and then a few weeks later we find out the details, so it keeps them in the cycle.
But this has all sorts of things like clamshell rear doors and all sorts of things which aren't going to make it to production, and that's probably why it doesn't have door handles, to be perfectly honest.
Again, I expect this to be a success when it comes out. I would also imagine it's going to look fairly similar to this.
Yeah, it's going to be this with number plates, door handles, and slightly smaller wheels. I mean, let's not.
Yeah.
We know how the story goes. We all know how the story goes.
Well, talking of ones we do actually finally have some detail.
Well, yeah, we talked a little bit about the EV4 hatchback and saloon pairing that's coming from Kia next year as well. And there's a bit more detail around now. It comes priced from €37,000 or £30,600, offering ranges of up to 391 miles. And yeah, it's primarily will be sold as a front-wheel drive, 201 horsepower, 0 to 62 around mid-7-second range type hatchback. Obviously, exact numbers will depend on battery and trim level. There will be a hot EV version with dual motor 4-wheel drive is expected, but that won't be around at launch. The entry level gets a 58.3 kilowatt hour battery pack, given about 267 miles in the saloon, 255 miles of range in the hatchback. There'll be a long range form with an 81.4 kilowatt hour battery. That will give you 391 miles in the saloon, 367 miles in the hatchback. We're expecting 10 to 80% charge to take at least 29 minutes for the small battery, 31 for the larger one. Terms and conditions apply. And see how that goes. But again, that's...
Speak to the Italian regulators.
Yeah, exactly. EV4 is going to get the same insides basically as the EV3. The massive 30-inch dashboard screen, which is so common across the Kia range, and the Hyundai range, twin 12.3-inch segments for infotainment and instrumentation, and 5.3-inch climate panel as well. It'll be the first Kia to integrate entertainment apps, including Netflix, Disney Plus, and YouTube. I'm sure that will only be for when you're charging, though.
Yes. Sigh.
Or you could just go for a pee and a coffee like anyone else. Sorry.
And continuing to round out the new car news with new van news follow-up.
Sorry, are we actually sponsored by Kia this week and last week?
No, we are. It would be nice if we were.
Yes.
However, we have now got details on the PV5. Once again, at the Spanish event, they released information on this, and we are linking to Professional Van, who have managed to get some exclusive information, actually, it looks like, here.
Can I just say I was right last week? It's about Vivaro sized. I can tell that because there's an official fill for scale in one of the photos.
Yes, there is. Man looks in van picture, just to let us.
Well, it's better than it's better than the manufacturers who already do launch selfies. You know.
Yes, but unfortunately, the van that they've chosen to show off is black with a black background. And they've almost used a black light bulb.
Yes.
It's like they gave it to the teenager who was having a goth moment.
It's a little bit hot black Desiato in spec, this one.
But what is expected, if we need to, because this is a commercial vehicle, we need to talk about payloads. And the whole thing is going to weigh 2.65 tons.
Mm-hmm.
And they expect that the payload will be limited to just 850 kilograms. That's a little bit less than the Ford E-Transit Custom by 200 kilos, but it's more than the ID Buzz Cargo, which only has 607 kilogram limit. So you can't fit 3 seats if it's got seats, and you can't fit much in it if it's can't. Oh, anyway, never mind.
Sorry, is that the ID Buzz you're talking about, or is that the ID
just to be clear, that's the ID Buzz.
I just want to make it, I didn't sort of step in last time and clarify, so I want to make sure I've done it this week.
Let's not have 2 weeks of me hashing things up. No.
Yeah.
It does actually look really quite practical in there. It's size-wise, it should be able to fit 2 Euro pallets in there too, which makes it quite practical from that side of things.
It will be available as passenger, cargo, and chassis cab configurations from launch. So if you do need more than the full 2 Euro cargo thing, you might be able to get it in a sort of pickup format. There's also going to be 2 lengths and 2 height options. Maximum load capacity of 5.1 cubic meters, which is going to be the one that can easily take, or comfortably, as quote here, 2 Euro pallets. And the inside looks all nice and regular and sensible with plenty of tie-down spot.
Yeah. Well, we don't have official confirmation of the price. However, what's clearly been muttered, but not in a quote me type way, is that they expect the entry-level cargo, which will have the smallest battery of 43.3 kilowatt hour pack, to be around 30,000 euros. That's before taxes, which means it would undercut the Ford E-Transit Custom by as much as £20,000.
That's quite impressive.
Now, one of the biggest problem for electric van uptake has been the price and not being able to do the job that people want it to do. This price-wise suddenly makes it a lot more attractive to a lot more companies and organizations. Now, if it performs, then I think, they should be onto quite a winner here, really.
Yeah. Did you see the bit about the new ad gear system? So users can customize the van's interior with modular accessories that can be added or removed post-purchase.
Yeah.
Say some of them just things like umbrella holders, but there could be other stuff which also plugs into the vehicle power system.
But that I find is interesting because I've had several conversations recently about just thinking about the new car market and how we won't be going back to the 2.5 million dream that the UK new market will be that. Therefore, people, and because of the cost of new vehicles has rocketed since 2020, people need to probably pay for these things for longer, get more use out of them, and the companies themselves, particularly electric vehicles when it comes to depreciation, need them to have a really good second, third, and even fourth life
Yes.
If we're talking about this modular adaptability, I can see that coming to cars as well. I mean, because it was a couple of years ago, we talked about Toyota were going to basically refresh a second-hand car, give it a brand new interior or certain parts.
I can't remember if it was Toyota, but yes, we definitely talked about that. And we talked about it with Renault and stuff as well.
And I think that's what we're going to have to see that. Otherwise, car manufacturers are not going to be able to carry on because there isn't the growth anymore. They can't do growth, so they've got to look at a new way.
Yeah.
Or not the growth they have been looking at anyway.
Yeah.
But I like this. I like this a lot. And I think if it lives up to the promise, they should do very well.
If you still had small kids, you'd be sitting champing at the bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't, so I want to try the camper one when that comes out.
Yes, there's more. Yeah,
Just go off.
You do know Mrs. Windscreen will be expecting to accompany you.
Yeah, that's fine.
You'll suffer, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. Suffer. That's the word. Yes, absolutely.
The other way around. Yeah.
I guess.
Sorry, I also know what side my bread's buttered on. So.
Yeah. Right, let's go to points of interest before this dissolves into
exactly. Gets any worse and a pair of us get in more trouble. Lunchtime read this week is the one that I promised you right back when we were talking about the first story. And it's an interview in the Rob Report of Adrian Hallmark, Aston Martin CEO, by Richard Alcock from Motoring Research, and talking about just what he's planning, what he's thinking of for Aston Martin, what they're going to have to do, where they are, what he's learned, all sorts of bits and pieces like that. And it sounds like two people sat down and had a bit of a chat over a couple of cups of coffee.
Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was a very interesting interview because I feel as though he's being as honest as a CEO can be.
Yeah,
particularly in this day and age where anything you say will be taken out of context and used against you.
Yeah.
I felt that he was quite enthusiastic for the whole project, which is the reason he came across, the reason he left Bentley. He said, I had the next 3 or 4 years mapped out, and then this offer came along, and it's really exciting and really interesting. So I've gone for it, and I'm impressed because it would be very easy when you get to CEO's level to just take the easy route.
Or be bullish about the fact that you know everything, and I think that's not the case here either.
Yeah, and we get some detail on some of the ideas he's brought to the company just because it's a fresh pair of eyes, and there's some of the things they're looking at and how they are attempting to approach becoming, because the key phrase is sustainably profitable.
Yeah.
And that's very much the core message from all this, is that it's not just getting to profitability, but we have to be able to do this without overstretching ourselves.
I like the last 3 sentences of the article. I'm just going to quickly read those. I don't quote those. However, for those working within Aston, the plan is to not create excitement by ripping things up every 5 minutes, but by being stable and secure. Says Hallmark, in here, I want it to be quiet, calm, boring, and successful. That's the mission.
Yep, because grown-up companies that do really well are boring.
It's so true. And I wish some people would realize that about other companies.
But do read this. It's really interesting. I think it was a good pick,
article. Yeah.
Alan, you picked a good one this week.
Was that, sorry. Was it me who chose that one? Because I thought I'd chosen a completely different article, and I thought, he's taking my article out.
That's next week's.
Oh, is that next week's now? Okay, right.
You've done two.
I have my moment. Every now and again I contribute, folks. Not as often as I should, but every now and again.
Well, you didn't pick this one, so I am going to choose the list of the week. And after the high of reading that about Aston Martin and feeling all bullish about things, how would you all like to feel old?
Really old.
Well, here we have from Classic Sports Car, 25 cars that are 25 in 2025.
There's no way these cars are that old. Ever.
Alan, you can pick either the one you're most shocked at, the one you want the most, the the one you can't believe is 25.
There's
whichever
so
it is.
many of
But
them.
do say how you have selected whichever you are going to select.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in here which is there's quite a few that are a bit odd. Okay, let's be honest about it.
Yeah, there's a couple that I don't think anyone ever bought.
Yeah, quite. There's some I can believe are that old, actually. Hang on, I'm just trying to. I'm going to go with the Vauxhall VX220.
Okay.
/ Opel Speedster, because I can't believe it's that old. And a friend bought one new. I think it was new. VX220 Turbo, because he wanted a more sensible vehicle to. No, he didn't. He'd had a Smart, and then how did it go? It was Smart Roadster Coupe, diesel Honda Civic, Vauxhall VX220 Turbo. Last I heard, he was driving an Audi S7. So yeah, the VX220 Turbo was the first properly quick car. I mean, really quick car that I ever drove. And it terrified me because it had no safety systems or anything like that. But it was amazing. Just the feel, all these kind of things that you get from an Elise and all that stuff, which essentially is underneath, was just quite something. It was one heck of a car. And that was a lot of fun. But again, I can't believe that's 25 years old. Whenever I work through the timeline, it does make sense, but I don't. Doesn't mean I like it. It was 25. I think there's room for you to choose one as well, if you so desire.
Yeah, I've got one. I've got the Mini. Now, I know it is 25 years old. However, I think that design stands up so well you could bring that out today and it would look fresh. But equally, I think it was such an important car.
And it was such a right car as well. I mean, Frank Stevenson did a freaking awesome job on that, and team, obviously, most of the credit goes to
it is. Maybe the Renault 5 EV will do this, but it is the last car I feel that was classless, as in anybody could own that, and it wasn't. It's not like you went, if they own a Mini, then they've got a country estate, or they live in a flat in the centre of a town, or it was for everybody.
It managed to do exactly what the original Mini did as well.
Yeah.
That was the thing about it. Madonna mentioned it in a song. Admittedly, it was one bit where she was rapping, so, swings and roundabouts. But, Madonna had one. Anyone, estate agents drove them around London. But you could get hold of them, and they were a bit premium, but they weren't ridiculously premium. And everybody kind of wanted one.
And I think the premium brands have been trying to repeat that with their smaller cars, with the Audi A1 and the A3, the BMW 1 Series, the A-Class Mercedes.
It's slightly different. BMW don't really need to do it because it's a BMW.
No, I know, but I do feel that that's what they try to recreate in a sort of, we'd like the sales, please.
So remember, whenever we're talking about Bentley and we're talking about these people, we're talking about all the accessories and all where the profit is, and everybody ordering their Starlight roofs and their carbon fiber add-ons. That was what Mini managed, was people to spend all the money on the accessories and personalize the Mini. And been loads of attempts to do that. Range Rover Evoque, do you remember? Is all the thing about all the graphics designed by Posh Spice. And then there was like the Citroen DS3 really tried very hard on it, where you could have all the different graphics and all that kind of thing. Those have died off a little bit now, I feel.
Yeah, because I think for mainstream cars, it's expensive to do.
Yeah, Mini managed it. They invested in all of those ideas and be able to do it, and are still profiting from that. They are still successfully doing that, I feel.
Yeah.
In a way that others haven't managed, haven't succeeded in doing it. And I think it's all down to do with the legacy of the originals. 25 years old, that looks significantly less dated than, say, my mum's. Well, and say the Mini 25 anniversary special edition that they did for the original Enzigonis one. By the time I reached the 30, like my mum had, It was really very out of date, whereas you could still hop in a 25-year-old Mini and drive the length of the country and not even think twice about it, in my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, apart from some plastic bits degrading in the Peugeot engine, of course.
Right, do you want to take us to the and finally then?
Yes, and finally, speaking of cars my mum just had, this one's very much the cars my dad has had. BMW has released the BMW Group Classic Product Catalogue.
Be prepared to lose many, many hours, everyone.
A way of discovering their historic models. And it's an online museum.
It's fabulous.
It's great. It's brilliant. I mean, I went, we were working our way through whilst we were chatting earlier on, and it was like, okay, 1980s. All right, we had one of them. We had an E21. Yep, we had a multiplicity of E30s, and an E30 Touring was in there as well. And then an E28 too, and an E30. And I will look through this. I had a story about almost every one. And I think that's amazing, really. Maybe that's more to do with me, and you know, many folk get excited about Vauxhall Cavaliers and stuff, and I just don't get that. But that's kind of because my dad was driving these. He went straight from all the BL stuff and Maxis and was able to end up in BMWs and has been most of the time ever since.
Mm.
So yeah, I think this is cool. This is so interesting. It really is.
Yeah, because you follow they've got the history down to decades as well. They've got the types of cars. They've got, if you want to just look at particular models, so like the 3 Series all the way through to the X and M, they've got those. They've got post-war classic. They've got section for all your needs, and it is amazing to go back and see where they come from, particularly post-war, to suddenly where they get to the O2 and the newer Classer.
I'm still in the 1980s one, but I'm looking through, and even if you go and you click on something like the 316, there's a paragraph or two about it. There's essentially a top trumps section at the bottom with displacement, prices, performance, all of these kind of things, cylinders, and all of these sorts of things for every single engine variant of every single body style. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Do go enjoy it, and well done BMW for putting this up.
It's great. I mean, I don't know what BMW get out of it, but I know that we have the opportunity to get an awful lot out of it. Yeah.
Mm.
It's very cool. 325iX Touring. How cool would that be? Anyway, meanwhile, back in the real world, I think that's us for this week, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It is awesome. Well, everyone, don't forget between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts for the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at Motoring Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Cracked Windscreen on Blue Sky, you should find me there. Or if you look on LinkedIn, search for my full name there. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, maybe reminisce in 80s BMWs, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Happily. Yeah, best way to get in touch with me is to use Blue Sky, where I'm at AJP Bradley. That's Bradley, because I know you all get sad when I forget to say it. We'll be back very soon, but until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.